Hi, this is Michael Won, News Director for Radio Korea.
Hello, everyone. My name is Young Kim, and I am the production director for Radio Korea. And today on our Culture Shock show, we have something very special, someone very special. And joining us is, you may know him from his elections or the documentary Chosen. Or
Chosen, and in Korean, Chosun.
That's right. He's the chosen one. Joining us is David Kim.
Hey,
How
what's
are
up,
you?
guys? Thank you so much. That was a very nice intro. I
Yeah, so
appreciate
we're
it.
going to do this in English because I always feel that, you're talking with the Korean community and stuff
Yes.
all the time.
Yes.
And on our interviews over here at Radio Korea, sometimes you might not be able to get out everything that you want to say.
Yes.
So I think this is a great opportunity and,
That's awful.
to talk a little bit about you. And
and we can mix some Korean into it.
Yeah,
like
you can
Konglish
go back and
stuff,
forth
but-
and all
그래요.
that. Yeah.
한국어를 같이 하시죠.
We decided
I
to
just
do
knew
the
that.
introduction in English today,
Okay.
just to mix it up.
Okay, got it.
It's like back at home, right?
Yes, exactly.
What's your
well,
Korean
no,
name, dude?
actually, no. My parents, well, we try to do English, but then they don't understand, so we say it all back in Korean. But yeah,
Do you speak? Did you speak Korean growing up in America? You're 1.5 or 2.0?
I was born in Arizona.
Oh,
Yeah,
You're
so-
2.0.
So 2.0. My brother was born in Korea. He's 1.5. But then we grew up, speaking both because my dad's a pastor.
Mm-hmm.
And so we grew up in the church talking to 집사님s, 권사님s, talking in Korean. And then we would have to translate my dad's messages, his Sunday messages into Korean or English based on what the needs were.
Yeah.
So we went back and forth.
Well, your Korean is really good. I went to one of the rallies that he had at K-Town. And
my
you did
Korean
you
still
did like a
sucks.
2-hour. He did like a 2-hour speech there. 1 hour speech about his life, and then another hour
How did
Q&A.
you, how did you
He's
keep
really
your
good.
Korean? I mean, is it from like the church activities that you used to participate in? Because I lived in Korea for 20 years, and my
Yes.
Korean is still whack.
No, your
And I
Korean's good, man.
remember you when you were a K-pop singer. But yes, I totally.
Do you really remember him when he was a
I
K-pop
do, I
singer?
do, I
You
do, I do.
You know,
I
some
I
do.
remember.
Some people.
I was in the military.
You guys
No.
are like one of the million people that actually remember me.
No, so when
That's
I had
like-
heard that he was coming to Radio Korea here,
Uh-huh.
I thought, oh shit, that's awesome. And then when I got to meet him, it was like, oh, okay.
Oh, it's like that.
It's like the
No, no,
the
I'm
balloon.
kidding.
The
No, no,
air
but-
was
but
No,
no.
it was the same thing meeting
No, no,
you.
but
know?
no,
You're very different from the documentary. I'll tell you that right now.
No,
right back at you. Right
no,
back
no, no.
at you.
No, but what? No,
He
he
holds
was.
grudges,
No,
okay?
what I remembered of him growing up
Uh-huh.
was that he was funny and he was sort of kind of the vocal person as well. And so I still do see that of him. If you ask my brother, he might not remember, but in any case, we used K-pop to keep up with our Korean.
Really?
And then after doing that, we went to college and then did like Korean club and all of that to keep our Korean up. And so it was more intentional in terms of, we learned Korean all of our years growing up. Like we can't lose this. So we need to constantly surround ourselves with Korean people. So
You're right.
Your brother's also good at Korean too.
and he's good in Korean. Yes, he's a doctor here in Koreatown.
Oh.
His brother actually, I found out that his
Why am I
brother has
Evan
been,
Kim. Evan Kim. Do you wanna?
yeah, Evan Kim, right?
Yes.
He has the same Korean name as I do.
Yeah.
also.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, and he's been treating my parents for a long time.
Hold on, we talked about this. That's right. Kim Young-jin.
Yeah,
right.
and my
Okay, got it,
parents
got
are
it.
at that stage where they're older now. He needed a stent, this and that. And, your brother, I found out. So I'm so thankful. I want him to be my primary care physician. So please.
He's a great
accept
doctor,
me.
without a doubt. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's a great doctor.
No,
What-
he's treated a lot of family members. I bet some of yours is too. And
Yeah.
whatchamacallit, when I was on the campaign trail, and I would introduce myself to people, they would want to contextualize where I'm from. And when I mentioned my brother, they would suddenly their face would open up and say, "Oh, Dr. Kim," and then they would talk.
So Dr.
and open
Kim is more famous than you. Used to be more famous.
He should
than
be
you?
your
Yes.
campaign manager
up. Yes.
if you ever decide to do something in the
Yes.
future again.
Yes.
So what year was it when you came to California after Arizona?
So we lived in Arizona till age 5, and then we moved up to Washington State, and then we lived there till I was age 16, and then we moved to Northern California. It's a long, and then after that I went to New York, and then
Oh,
I
you
moved to
went
LA.
to
You know, a lot of Korean American families, I've noticed that they do this moving around. For example, me, when I first came to America, I set foot on Kodiak Island, believe it or not. You don't even know where that is, right?
No, I don't know.
It's in
No.
Alaska somewhere.
Alaska. Yeah, you told me.
Okay,
Alaska.
Yeah, they have
Alaska,
they
yeah.
train like the America's Coast Guard Academy is over there. And I went over there, and then I moved to Santa Rosa in Northern California, then Walnut Creek, and then moved down to LA. And there was a lot of moves going on. So I don't really have any like close friends from elementary school
Me
or
too.
something. Right?
Me too.
See, that's messed up. That's why I didn't move around.
Yeah,
with
me
my
too. I don't
friends.
have a lot
Yeah.
of elementary school
Yeah.
friends here because it was in Korea. It was in Korea.
Wait, I left school. Remember, I left school.
I remember. I forgot about it. Now I remember. Thanks
what's
for
I Love School?
Okay,
reminding me.
it was
a
a
website
website.
where you can
Uh-huh.
find your elementary school
Yeah,
friends.
and then what
stuff.
happened was like all these
I
like
see.
all these ladies and guys that went back and met up with their elementary school friends and stuff. Like someone they started cheating on their present
Affairs,
wives, and
a lot
husbands,
of
and
affairs
All these
happened.
things
Oh,
happened. It was funny,
wow.
dude.
It became like a social issue. for a
Yeah,
while.
yeah. And it's not around anymore, right? Maybe you should create.
No,
the
it's
app.
not. I
Love
think
School
they have
app.
Facebook
Yeah.
and all that, so
Oh,
people
yeah.
don't even need that
Yeah.
anymore.
Well, I mean, even with Facebook, like because I went to 3 different high schools, even when I was looking up friends, it wasn't as. I hope none of my high school friends
Were
watch
you a
this.
bad student?
But no, it's not that. It's because my dad was a pastor and we had to move around and stuff. And then there's that. And then my parents also were like, "Oh, 공부 제일 잘하는
Yeah.
학교를 보내야지."
yeah.
And so then they sent us to a school that had the International Baccalaureate program, IB, similar like AP. So then they
See, I
sent us
don't
there.
even know about that. That tells you my scholastic level, right?
Yeah.
So
No, so we had overambitious parents who would send us to go do that. But no, going back to the Facebook part, when I would search for high school friends, it wasn't as exciting because I didn't get to develop meaningful relationships with any of my high school friends.
yeah.
So yeah, so I get that feeling of like not really having like those childhood or high school friends later.
Yeah. And you immigrating over, because back then immigrating from one country to another,
Yeah.
that meant goodbye.
Uh-huh.
I mean, it
But-
wasn't like, I'll see you on Facebook. I'll, check out my Snapchat. It wasn't none of that. It was goodbye.
You
Yeah,
make him
yeah.
sound
I'll send you a
ancient.
letter,
And David's talking about how academically focused we are as Asian,
Right.
As Asian
Right.
family. I remember my dad used to ask my friends when I bring my friends to my house.
너
my dad-
성적이
my-
뭐니?
너 반에서 몇 등이야?
What's your
It's like
GPA?
crazy. I mean, if you come to think about it, it's crazy. No
Yeah.
American family asks those kind of
Yeah.
questions, but that was
Yeah.
kind of like same as like hi. 너
Yeah.
반에서 몇 등? Like my
Yeah.
cousins would ask me, 너 반에서 몇
Yeah.
등이야? That
I
would be
think-
high. Yeah.
But I think what, in a way, it was very, very traumatizing that how Korean parents do this
It
to
is.
us.
It actually
But
is.
in a way, it's also for our good because now when I prepare for my cases and whatnot, I remember growing up, my mom would get so pissed if we got an A- or a B+, and she would spank
You had a B+?
us.
Shame on
I
you.
mean, I don't think that's a positive side, to be honest with you.
So no,
It's
so
like
I would
B+? Are you serious?
I would have a B+ occasionally, and it was probably
Like you were-
PE class.
you were pretty
PE
much-
class.
Uh-huh.
PE?
I know, right? But then, so I wouldn't get 혼내 that much because it was PE class. But then my brother, he would get all A's, and if he got one A-, my mom would go berserk and she would go crazy. So now when I'm also prepping for my court cases every day, I'm like, oh, if I don't, A- 받으면 안 되지, and I can hear my mom's voice, and so it's really kept me like super
I
diligent
think-
and
I
like
think that's a
subconsciously as
To be
well.
honest, I think that's a very negative side of Asian parents. I think the
you know-
tiger
Yeah.
family,
Yeah.
tiger mom, and all that. That's one of the reasons why many people immigrate over here to get away
See,
from those.
You have to
Yeah.
disappoint him early
Mm-hmm.
and hard. That's how you get him off your back.
Mm-hmm.
Just bring back F's,
Mm-hmm.
and then
Is
you're
that-
happy with anything.
Is it from personal experience? You're
It
saying
is from
this?
personal experience.
see, and
and
that-
there was a lot of pain involved with that as well. But
But it
I
got
got
them-
my expectations down a little bit.
Okay, so it got them to face reality a lot sooner, so
Yeah.
that's good.
So I think the first time we met was it like 5 years ago when you first ran, right? For
Yes.
Congressional District 34.
About around that time.
Uh-huh.
Tell us about your decision to run.
Decision to run. The first time?
Yeah,
Last,
like I
second
mean,
time?
what made you? I mean,
Future third time?
You have a law degree.
Yes.
I mean, you're a practicing lawyer.
Yeah.
You can make all the money you want, but not in the field of law that you're in right now at this per se. But I mean, you could, right? But
Yeah.
the fact of the matter is that you choose to a life of servitude.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you went for that. Tell us like what made you decide that?
Yeah. I mean, to share I'll try to share just kind of a nutshell of it. So I moved here in 2010, Los Angeles.
LA.
And I mean, during that time when I moved here, the legal market was really bad.
Mm-hmm.
And I I mean, I ended up getting attorney jobs where I was being paid for free. So I remember working at this labor and employment law office in Pasadena. That's the ironic part, labor and employment law office.
Don't you guys have employment laws that protect you?
And I was working 60, 70 hours a week, and I was being paid $2,000 on a 1099.
Dude, that's
so-
like being a K-pop star in Korea.
Yeah, we heard your story.
So you can relate
Yeah.
to that part.
Slave labor.
So it was interesting because at that time, like when I did have time to go meet up with friends think, oh, David's a baller, he's an attorney, he's working so much. But it's in reality, no, I wasn't. But I had to save face and I couldn't share any of those personal details. So I ended up having to pick up jobs along the way. So I drove for Lyft, I drove for Uber when they first started. So while I was doing that, I was driving from 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. every day. I slept for 3-4 hours, and then I would go to my attorney job because it wasn't enough to pay for rent.
Wow.
And so when I lived this 2 to 3 job daily grind and hustle, I was like, shit, like I went to law school and I'm like this, what's going on? And so that's where I just sort of like 눈떠 in terms of political awareness. And so one day I got a text message from Kenneth Mejia, the current LA city controller. And it said, hey, my name is Kenneth Mejia. I'm 26. I'm running for Congress. And as soon as I saw that, I was like, 아니 26살짜리가 뭘 한다고 Congress를 나가.
Yeah.
And so
That's what I felt.
Yeah,
when
so
he
that was the first when I ran.
No, when he ran, when Mejia. When Mejia ran, yeah, I
Okay,
remember.
I thought you said
back
that's
in the
what
day.
you felt when you heard that I first
No,
ran.
you got it right.
I wouldn't dare think that way.
No, so then
because you were older. Aren't you older?
I'm older, yes.
Yeah.
I'm 38 now.
Yeah.
But no, when I saw
He's
that,
32
I just
now, right? So.
yeah, I think so. When I saw that, I got so curious in terms of 아니 무슨 like why is a 26-year-old? And so I got to learn more, and he sort of he just kind of really taught me about what local issues were going on with homelessness, with housing, with tenants' rights, with labor unions. And so that's where I started volunteering for his campaign in 2018. So he actually ran against the current congressman in 2018 as a Green Party candidate. And for our district, there's less than 1% registered as Green, yet he won, I think, 27% of the total general election vote. So that means 1/3 of Democrats voted for Kenneth. And so I said, Kenneth, you need to run as a Democrat, and this time you'll win. But he didn't. And so I said, hey, can I run instead?
Oh,
and so
that's
then
how
that happened.
So that's how.
2020.
Okay, so you ran both terms or both times as a Democrat, right?
Yes.
Okay. I asked Paul Suh. He's now
Yes, I
the
love
city
Paul
councilman for PV.
Yes.
And I asked him the same question. When we see like our Asian American or Korean American friends or brothers, right? Most of us, we're immigrants and we kind of have like a conservative background and a conservative upbringing from our parents, obviously, right? But most of the Korean Americans that run for office, they tend to side with the Democrat or join the Democratic Party. What was your reason for joining the Democratic Party?
Yeah, I think, growing up, my brother and I were raised Republican.
Because your parents were Republicans.
Because our parents are
they're very
Republican, and they're
conservative, right?
still very Republican.
Yeah.
They're hardcore Trump supporters, both of them. But
Nothing wrong with that.
And there's
No, it's just funny.
No. I mean, because if you laugh, it's like you're demeaning the Republican Party and Trump supporers and all that. But I know that.
Yeah, no,
we know your story, but we want our audience to know about your story.
Yeah, so growing up, like I think it's mainly because I remember every election cycle, the Republican Party would send these pamphlets about election stuff, and then they would draw like the ones we saw. I don't know where they came from, but the ones we saw, they would draw devil horns on the Democratic candidates' heads and say, these people support gay marriage and abortion and whatnot.
This was when?
This was like back in the 90s.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a long time
So
ago.
this was back in the 90s, and then also growing up.
Things were a lot different back then.
And I think for at that time,
And that was when even Democrats were against it, by the way. In the 90s, right?
I'm only talking from my own parents' and family's experience and church's experience and the community that we were in. But I felt like back then, growing up, a lot of people held to Republican values more so because of moral, biblical reasons and the socially conservative reasons for that, not per se because they knew about anything else that the Republican Party favored, other than that they knew that, hey, they like protecting what you've earned and saved up. So like really they're fighting for us. And I remember my dad told me two things. It was because of religious reasons and also because they respect the you get to save what you've earned type of mentality. But growing up, like kind of seeing my dad go through a stroke, lose it all, then him going on to SSI on disability, and seeing how like a lot of our church members, they were working 2 to 3 jobs, struggling to make ends meet. And in terms of kind of the values of socially conservative values of same-sex marriage and abortion and whatnot, like they get all of that, but then they're also of the mentality of, hey, what would Jesus do if he were living here on this earth right now? Wouldn't he go out and he said in the Bible, go feed the hungry, take care of the sick, and clothe the poor. Wouldn't he also go do that? And so as sort of I was growing up and getting deeper in my walk with God, I've come to notice that part that Jesus was also kind of preaching and sending out of, hey, like it's not just about 잘 먹고 잘 살아. Like you need to be doing that with everyone, and it's not just in the church. It has to be outside of the church as well. And so I feel in terms of this collective consciousness of, hey, we need to take care of each other.
Are you saying Jesus was a Democrat?
I'm saying, okay, I'm getting there, right?
Just kidding.
So
he must have been a liberal.
So that is exactly kind of what I'm kind of pointing towards, in the sense of, I feel that more so the Democratic Party keeps that in mind of, hey, looking out for each other, where those who, like those families and parents that I represent in court every day, they're not there because they're per se immoral or bad parents. They're there because of poverty, because they don't have resources or systems, because they also used to be foster kids, and then they become parents, and then their children get taken away from them, because we still have an institutionalized racist system in different areas. And so when you look at that, I feel that that's where the Democratic Party is able to kind of, I mean, at least by vocally intentionally put that out. Whether or not you see that in actions, I mean, is another question. I mean, and that's what prompted me to run.
You think that Republicans sound just a little bit more harsh, too much individuality rather than helping each other, building each other up?
I think there just is more of an emphasized focus on your individual freedoms and your liberties and saving what you've earned, which the Democratic Party also values, but then you can still do that at the same time by helping other people and building equity for everyone. It's not mutually exclusive. So
I got to learn more about David through the documentary Chosen. Right? Chosen, because he didn't reveal that part during, my one-on-one interviews.
Right.
But it seems like your dad was super strict, really strict, right? Can you kind of talk?
PK, dude.
Yeah, and you're a pastor kid.
I'll be honest with you.
Yes.
PKs either turn out one way or another.
So
really good or really bad.
Yeah, we want to hear about a little bit more on that.
Well, I think if my dad were to hear that right now, he would say David's the bad one because he's gay, and then my son Evan is the good one.
Would they really say that?
I don't know. Yeah. But no, growing up though, I think you're right in terms of those stereotypes. I think for us, I mean, by grace of God, and then also my mom's and how she raised us, thankfully we didn't like go to the sideway. But I mean, we still had our own issues growing up. With our dad also, I mean, he's still a pastor, and each person evolves and changes as they continue to move on. But back then he was a different version, and so my brother and I would get hit by him a lot, and so.
Is it because of the grades or other
because
behaviors?
of grades and just other kind of those Korean father issues of, oh, did you just talk back to me? Oh, how dare you talk back to me? And then we find ourselves in the ER. And so kind of
that bad.
Yeah. So I know you didn't expect that.
Saying, but you're just candidly saying ER.
But the reason why I'm sharing it now is because it's sort of in the movie Chosen.
I know, yeah.
And it's all over the world. So it's already out there. It's already out there that my dad abused us when we were little. But I think, and so my dad and I also had this talk after he saw the film, and he was depressed for a good long week. And I remember sharing with
impact.
Yeah, and he was depressed, and we talked about it though, and I talked with my dad and I said, Dad, I love you, but those were earlier versions of yourself. If you keep on clinging to that, like, and feeling guilty and shame, then that's not what this is supposed to be. Like, we need to talk about these things to start healing.
So did
Is
you?
he different now?
Did you guys? Yeah, that's what I wanted.
So my dad, I mean, he's gone through that process, and although he still hasn't accepted kind of my sexuality part, I mean, we're talking and we have a relationship, but we too are still kind of figuring out to say I love you without saying I love you, because Korean dads never say that.
It's an understanding that you've come to. You guys, I think that's great. I think that's great. So the documentary, him watching the documentary, actually helped. It opened the books for dialogue.
Yeah.
That was a highlight of the film, actually. I think, didn't you say you were angry about it initially? That the director Chun director brought your dad without you knowing it. Right?
Oh, you didn't know?
You were angry about it, but that was a highlight of the film. I felt.
Oh, at the end of the film, where they bring my dad to the election watch party without me knowing.
Oh, you didn't know? You didn't know that he was going to show up?
Yeah, I didn't know he was going to show up. They showed up. And I think for me, I got mad because I knew my dad would try to take the pulpit as a pastor because he loves talking, and Korean pastors love talking.
Yeah.
They don't like anybody else talking. And so I knew my dad would take the mic and say, everybody except Jesus, which he did do that night.
He did say
I was exactly right.
And you were worried about that.
I was translating, and you saw in the movie, I was translating for him, and I didn't translate what he said. I just said, hey, everyone, my dad's found his truth. You guys find your truths too. Instead of saying, go accept Jesus.
Are you in talking terms with your dad now?
Yeah, I'm talking with him.
It sounds like you guys are in a really good relationship right now, or working towards one.
Okay, that's great. That's great. Because I mean, I want anybody who wants to know David, they should watch that documentary. It's very well made documentary.
Yeah.
And
I think what that movie, and then kind of my parents' relationship with me post that movie and post campaign and all of that, what it's helped me realize is like, my mom and dad, we feel awkward talking to each other sometimes because the elephant's in the room of they don't accept me being gay and whatnot. But I think despite that elephant in the room, we've learned to still talk with each other and work with each other and love each other. So I'm going to be a politician and say, so when I get to Congress, if I were to run again, is we need people like that where they're not emphasizing and highlighting the differences all the time, where you have Republicans and Democrats smearing each other online. How in the world are you going to work together if you're smearing each other online? And so kind of from my sense, when I ran for the past campaigns, was we need to go in there, and I'm a living example of being able to work with people that have differences, with my parents who haven't accepted, with other people in the community. And so that's the kind of mentality that our government needs to have. But without that, like, nothing's ever going to get done. So,
I mean, you touch up on a lot of different points. I think your father's generation, my father's generation, we're all the same generation. Your father's generation. I think there was a lot of abuse in those times. Fathers, it was just a given.
Yeah,
there was you were going to get your butt kicked,
military style.
They're going to use whatever is around them to beat you with it. That's how it was. For some reason, the Korean culture is filled with that, and also not communicative at all. Fathers just say something, and you're supposed to listen, be obedient. Filial piety is a big thing. The Confucianism, it plays a big part in it as well. But a lot of that has become changed a lot, where there is more dialogue. And I completely understand where you're coming from. And the view as a pastor on, the LGBTQ community, it's, I've seen some like hardcore pastors and hardcore religious people in Korea, and some of them are just so like non-tolerant. Like it's like a loathe. You can see it.
We should love one another.
It's completely non-tolerant. Here's an example. So after the November election, I went to Korea to do like a press tour for Chosen. And so a lot of articles like were published in Korean in Korea. When you go to the 댓글, holy crap. They tore me apart.
Percentage-wise, how many percent of it?
99% out of the 100, out of the several hundred posts were like, David, we're so glad you're not here in Korea. We hope you die and go commit suicide. Your dad is so weird for letting you live. A pastor should never have a gay son. And I was like, whoa. And this was all in Korean.
That's
by
what
the
God
Korean
teaches, right? Is that what God? I want to ask you. Is that what God?
I was shocked.
Yeah, I think that's wrong.
Yeah.
The reporters, did they know in advance about the story, or when you had the press premiere?
They knew in advance, and like we went over the article drafts. I think they underestimated the amount of hate in terms of the 댓글들. So they said, oh, we should have turned it off. I'm so sorry. And I said, no, like free speech, it's fine. Like they can comment. But I get it though, because my own dad, after AP declared that I lost 3 weeks after the election, my dad texted me and said, don't you ever go tell anybody that you're queer, or because this keeps on blocking your future. And I think for his kind of aspect, he really still meant it, even though like.
But it's too late. His advice is too late because you are already open.
It's already open, right?
It's already in the
so
open.
Then he
for you to revert back, that would be kind of problemsome.
Yeah,
that would be problematic.
Well, he was offering to send me to conversion therapy camp, but.
Okay.
You've heard of the term pray the gay away or something,
I've
right?
done that my whole life. I think that's why I got even deeper, I guess, in my Christian walk, because I felt that if I got closer with God and whatnot, that I would be healed, but it never happened. So
yeah, and these are human beings writing all these heinous things about you. So I think I wouldn't say that all Christians are like that.
Oh yeah, no. I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that either.
But it's just funny how the ones that claim to be the most hardcore of them all, they're the most intolerant of them all, and they act the least Christian towards the LGBTQ community. I find that very wrong.
I think the biggest tragedy out of that documentary was there were 4 members. All of them got elected except for Dave. So he almost made it this time, but it was a little bit, 3,000 votes short.
3,000 votes.
So many people have been asking me, they wanted me to ask you, are you still considering to run? There has been some rumors that you were actually seeking a higher seat. Are you considering it right now?
Yeah, I'm
the
still.
News buzz.
I'm still.
The news buzz.
The news buzz. I'm still considering to run. I haven't ruled it out. So I'm exploring, is what those prospective candidates might say. But
just like a politician, you said, I wouldn't rule it out.
Was it devastating after waiting 3 weeks because you were catching up?
It was.
Yeah, he was catching up. Yeah,
it was because when you put it into perspective, 3,000 votes. That means if we won 1,700 more votes, that's like a few more Saturdays for door knocking. So yeah. So it was very crushing. And then on top of that, your dad sends you a text. And so it was a lot of processing, but I got over it in terms of, because I think the work that I do daily in court just needed me to be present for my parents, so I was able to process through it.
Okay, so right now you're working as a lawyer in family law, right? Is it marital law? What is it?
So there's a difference between family court and children's court. So family court is where you go to get custody orders or divorces or anything related where there's no alleged issue in the family. Children's court is where Children Protective Services in every county, when a school teacher sees that a child hasn't eaten, they might report that parent or family and say, hey, this parent's not feeding their children. Or if they see a bruise on the child, or if a baby's born at a hospital and their test comes out that they're positive with meth or marijuana or whatnot. So in those cases, so nurses, teachers, school bus drivers, they're all mandated reporters. There are even some landlords who also report families because they haven't paid rent. And so they say, hey, this parent is not taking care of their children. They haven't paid rent. And so then they get their children taken away. And so these parents, when they go to children's court, they need an attorney, but most of them don't have money to hire an attorney. So they're appointed a free public attorney, and that's what I do. So I come in and represent these parents in children's court.
And you said there are many Korean families like that too, right?
Yeah. So the Korean families are not the majority, but when Korean families do come in, they're mostly because of domestic violence or physical abuse or alcohol. So the parents, the mother and the father engage 부부싸움 a lot, and they yell and scream a lot. And even if they don't hit, they can come into children's court and have their children taken away. So, and that's because the child might go to school and say, oh, my mom and dad, innocently, without thinking that their teacher's going to report them, innocently might say, oh, my dad called my mom a B. And then the teacher will immediately report that family to CPS.
By law, it has to be reported, right?
So just because there's this suspicion. So domestic violence for Korean families, physical abuse. So when you hit your child, even, so in California, you can only hit your child with your hand. hand.
Oh, so you can hit your child.
Okay.
But it has to be in a reasonable area.
Okay.
So like on the
Buttocks.
buttocks. And it can't be way too many times. It just has to be like a couple. So whatever is reasonable. But then Korean parents don't do that. They use their like spatula and their like jugok or like anything that they have in their
Those are
right?
Jugok's really
those-
hurt.
so
There's a lot of
Jugok's like the worst.
Those would be an abuse category, right?
Yeah, so there's physical abuse. So when you have, so some of these Korean parents, there's always some throwing object, like,
Yeah.
and so that's a no
Yeah.
for sure in
How about
children's court.
hechori?
And so hechori's not good either.
Hechori's not
no,
good.
you can't.
So you'd
Yeah.
rather. Oh, okay.
You just have to
because
use the
many
hand.
Korean parents think
Yes.
hechori is okay.
Yeah.
It's a weapon though.
So I've had to explain. I've had to explain to the judge, Your Honor, I'm Asian. I'm Korean. In Asian cultures, we don't use the hand. We use hechori.
Yeah.
That doesn't fly by the judge
Really?
because the
In
judge
Korea,
says
you-
this is
yeah.
America, and so yeah, that's what they always come back with.
Because in Korea, the perception is hechori is without emotion.
What
Right.
was your weapon of
If you're
choice?
I
that
think
you-
it was both. To be honest, I mean, there was no. It was just you know how Korean parents are.
Yeah.
My and
My
if
dad
you have
played
a military
hockey.
background. It wasn't hockey.
They make sure all the hockey sticks are away.
I mean, I didn't know that there was an option. Is there,
Yeah.
is there an option?
No, so then with sometimes what's weird is like I had a couple cases where the child was telling the teacher, "Oh my gosh, if you don't give me an A, Mrs. So and so, my dad said he's gonna honne
Oh, they
me."
use that card
And
too.
the teachers really believe
Yeah,
it. So
yeah.
then they report the family to CPS, and I'm sitting there saying, "Your Honor, the dad didn't really mean it. That if he did get an A minus, he would really spank
I
him."
think the dad really meant it.
Okay.
I think the dad really meant it.
Yeah, number
you know,
one.
Korean parents,
It's
they
like,
really
it's like
mean it,
you
man.
have to learn not to say that kind of stuff or
No,
use
no,
code words
I
or
remember.
something.
I mean,
but-
come on, let's be honest. During the elementary school years, you don't remember, the teachers hitting you if you don't get this.
Yeah.
If you have like 20
in Korean elementary
wrong,
schools, yeah,
they hit
would-
you that
Oh,
much,
okay.
Yeah,
So
they use these like yardsticks and stuff.
So that's why in Korea they don't have this system.
Yeah.
The children's
Well, you
court
know what?
CPS
There-
system.
there-
They don't
there-
have it in Korea.
There is a lot of protectionary measures for kids these days
Okay.
now, more
It
than ever,
changed,
because
right?
it is happening.
Okay.
All right, you guys are watching Culture Shock right now. We're with two-time congressional candidate David Kim, and maybe a third-time.
is that
I'm
a diss?
presuming. What?
Are
No,
you
it's not a
just-
diss.
I think
What?
he just dissed you, man.
What? You can't just do it the first time around. It's like.
and turn
over right
All
look at
right,
it.
we're going to come back and talk
You
more
gotta
about
focus
maybe
on
Jimmy
how the
Gomez
person
in a little
felt,
bit, all
right?
right? We'll be back with Culture Shock.
부주의 운전, 지구를 위협합니다.
오늘도 지각 예정인 회사원 A씨 차 안으로 뛰쳐들어갑니다. 늦었으니까 일단 시동부터 걸고 출발할게요. 이제부터 업무를 시작해볼까요? 바쁜 현대인은 달리는 차 안에서 여러 가지 일을 할 수 있어요. 일단 예의 바르게 5분 늦는다고 문자를 상사에게 보냅니다. 내비게이션에 주소를 찍을게요. 아침도 챙겨 먹고 인스타도 좀 확인하고 유튜브도 보고 전화도 걸고 전화를 받고 아, 밥을 먹으니 졸음이 와요. 잠깐 낮잠을 즐겨볼게요. 에그머니나 쿵 소리와 함께 천사들이 보여요. 내가 꿈을 꾸는 건가요?
부주의한 운전은 교통사고를 일으키는 주요 원인 중 하나입니다. 운전을 할 때는 도로 위 상황에 집중해 주세요. 우리 모두가 함께 안전한 도로 환경을 만들어 나가는 것이 필요합니다. 이 광고는 라디오 코리아와 함께합니다.
All right, we're back on Culture Shock with David Kim. No, I didn't mean to diss him. It was
I
like-
was kidding, man.
No, I feel bad now. So how's Jimmy Gomez?
Jimmy, how is he? Did you give him a congratulatory note?
I heard
or
he's like,
afterwards?
he's
I did.
deathly
I-
afraid of you,
Yeah.
I called his office after AP called the race, and I said, "Hey, could you relay my message? Congratulations!" And then I also emailed his campaign manager, and I said, "Hey, congratulations,
So
your
nice.
candidate won."
No reply.
And then no, he replied back, and he said, "Hey, let's have coffee in the new year." And so in the new year, I emailed him, and no reply.
Yeah.
But I did ask his campaign manager to take down an attack website.
Yeah, I heard about that.
And so he
opened a
replied
website,
back.
right?
Yeah. So whenever you Google searched Nuri Martinez, Gil Cedillo, Kevin De Leon election, that attack ad would pop up in Google. So just so for everyone to see. But I asked them to put it down. He took it down, but then just a couple weeks ago, I noticed that they put it back up.
They put it back up because
wonder-
they
I
think
wonder
that you're
why.
running
I think
against
they
him,
think
right?
that I'm gonna be running again. So
So does that start a fire in you? Like it's like, oh, something's burning inside.
How is he? How is he? Is
Not
he
gonna
doing
lie,
good?
it does
I mean,
something,
honestly,
but-
as a constituent, is he doing good, or are you disappointed by his policies, or he's different from what he's saying? He's saying one thing, but actually doing another.
I mean, I haven't seen any real substantive change since this past election. I think he's just doing the same old thing he used to do, which was having these one-sided quarterly town halls where people can't ask questions, and if they do, they're filtered by his staff, so only a few questions are asked, and anyhow, so I haven't seen any real change except for him creating the Dad's Caucus in Congress.
Dad's Caucus.
He created the Dad's Caucus. I think that's his biggest
that for?
accomplishment.
What is the Dad's Caucus?
Where congressional members who are dads, they just form their own 동아리. So that's it. So
Oh,
he
it's
formed
okay.
the
It's like a
Dad's
dad's
Caucus,
club,
yeah.
kind of.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
okay, all right.
So that's his. But I mean, other than that, though, I mean, I don't feel like he's kind of really changed that much.
Okay,
In terms
let's talk
of how
about
he does office.
Koreatown. What do you think about the election? CD6
Yeah,
district, and
so-
also, let's talk about that one first.
Yeah, so for CD6, I think for those who are tuning in wondering what that's about, so recently Mark
Really
Ridley
much.
Thomas,
Mhm.
Mark Ridley Thomas, who was the sitting city council member that had won the election back in 2022, he was found convicted guilty of several charges, including felony, and so that made his seat vacant completely. But we all knew that was coming a long way. We knew that was coming, like
So this is
ahead of
this
time.
is
everyone
City Council
knew about the
District 10.
corruption.
So
Yeah,
you want to
CD10,
talk about
which CD10,
yeah.
which includes Koreatown.
Yeah, CD10.
Where
Yeah.
we're currently in right now, and so that's why the city appointed Heather Hutt to be the city council member to fill in the vacancy until we know what more was happening. And so she was appointed last fall, and according to the city charter section 409, it reads that when there's a vacancy, the city council has the power to appoint, but then that appointee can only serve until the second Monday of December of an even-numbered year. The first even-numbered year, second Monday of December. So if she was appointed last fall, then she can only serve until the second Monday of December 2022. And then the rest of that section 409 says, and if there's more time remaining of the unexpired term, and Mark Ridley's term is until December 2024, then in terms of that, then there needs to be a special election. So once we found out that Mark Ridley Thomas was convicted of felony a few weeks ago, then immediately City Council should have ordered a special election according to Section 409. But the reason why they didn't, and what Paul Krogorkian, the LA City Council president, said was, no, we need to make a distinction between the temporary appointment and the permanent appointment. So for Heather Hutt, we temporarily appointed her. And so because now we know that Mark Ridley Thomas has been convicted, her temporary appointment ends now and her permanent appointment starts now. So now that we're in 2023, the second Monday of December of an even-numbered year would be 2024. So now Paul Krogorkian was saying, oh, we're doing this legally because there's a distinction between temporary and permanent vacancy and appointment. However, if you go to Section 409, there's no distinction between a temporary vacancy or permanent vacancy. It only talks about a vacancy and it only talks about an appointment. If the city council's intent was to distinguish that, then that should have been located in the legislative notes, or it should have been spelled out in the statute and code, but it wasn't. So what they're doing is they're making these superfluous interpretations to get the way that city council wants. And so they've just deprived CD10 residents of their right to vote for a city council member and appointed Heather Hutt.
You think
to
there
the
should be a
rest of the
legal
How come
challenge?
no one is challenging this legally? I mean, it's all
Yeah.
there,
Do you
right?
think
I mean,
that-
there's a case.
Nobody brought a case.
So
far, right?
I'm also wondering why there's no lawsuit. I mean, obviously, if I was a civil rights attorney, I would go ahead and do it. But my hands are tied in terms of Mike. And so I'm just wondering, there needs to really be a lawsuit against the city for this. And I'm perplexed and confused as to why there's not. And I do understand that other people did show up at that meeting to comment at public comment and protest. I know Aura Vasquez was there, Grace Yu was there, and other community members were there. But it's a huge issue that really should have national spotlight, I think, because to deprive a complete district of their right to vote for a city council member is huge.
Because CD6 had a special election, right?
CD6 had a special election. Yeah.
So CD10, why is it different? You know, it's always different with the Koreatown people.
Yeah.
Why is no one,
why
is no one challenging this?
Yeah, I'm very perplexed.
I think, you know,
and
there
confused.
Korean community used to file lots of lawsuits regarding the redistricting issues, but we all ended up being on the losing side of it too, that one too. So I guess people thought that since election is coming next year, March anyway, even though special election will be intact, the new elected supposed member, could be Grace Yu, whoever, would probably go in end of this year.
How
Right?
come there's
So,
no coverage on stuff like this? When
there
it comes to,
there has been a lot of coverage.
has
about
there
it.
been
There has
coverage?
been a lot of coverage.
But is
And
this
there has-
getting to like the public,
No,
like
but-
the K-Town public's years? Are they
No,
paying attention to this?
But to be perfectly honest, even last year, people were saying that there might not be a special election at all since 2024 is approaching. And even though there's an elected official who won the special election, that person would probably have like 8-9 months, right? And then after that, he's pretty much in the campaign mode.
So pretty
and
much
they have to spend $10 million,
$8 million. So $4 million for the primary special and $4 million for the general special.
Yeah.
So I mean, that would be the main other argument. Because of money reasons, we should save the money for the people. But I still think the democratic right to vote is still the tantamount. Like, yes, budget is important, but that's the most tantamount, and that needs to be prioritized. So
I thought it was. I don't know. I feel like Koreatown got a raw deal.
Yeah, but I mean the CD10 race though. I mean, Heather Hutt isn't safe because I heard that Assemblyman Isaac Bryan's gonna run for that position too against Aura and Grace Yu, and so it's gonna be. And there's other community members also running.
Right? Isn't she the one?
Yeah, and then
Sawyer?
Yeah,
Right?
Sawyer, and then there's I think 2 or 3 others. I just forget their names. They're also running,
and
so.
next year the voter turnout will be really high.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not sure whether Grace Yu has a good chance. I mean, to be perfectly honest, I think the Korean community wants her to win, but this is her third time, right?
It's her third time.
Yeah, like
me. But no, I had higher percentages, yo. I had 47% and 49%.
Yeah, you did, yeah.
I had
we gotta be
49%.
honest. Yeah, Grace Yu, I think the first time she tried, that was a special election too, right? Wasn't it? Against her Wesson?
No,
it wasn't.
It was regular.
Yeah, but
she
she ran
was in
late.
regular
She
elections.
ran late.
Yeah.
And her rationale is last time around, she ran against Mark Ridley Thomas, and Mark Ridley Thomas being convicted, she was supposed to win. That's her, rationale of, running this time. But I think Mark Ridley Thomas, that guilty verdict, it was. Did you predict that, or did you hear a
I
lot
think
of
everyone predicted it, right?
I think a lot of people were saying that he might get scot-free because of, he was
Okay, we're in
holding
different
that-
circles.
Oh, really? No, because he was
So
using.
let's talk about these circles.
No, he was using that black, I'm black card. People were saying that it's hard to convict a black. You
I
didn't
see,
hear
I
that
see,
story, right?
I see. Okay.
I mean, these were people from City Hall, telling me. But anyway, I thought he deserved it. What he did was wrong with his son Sebastian.
Yeah. Oh
Sebastian.
my gosh.
Yeah. How could he become a professor at
Yeah.
USC with just an undergrad
Yeah.
degree? It didn't make sense at all.
Yeah.
So how about like other state politics? Are you following? Do you hear that like Gavin Newsom running for 2024?
Gavin Newsom is expected to run for president.
Right? He is, right? That's what I've been
expected.
hearing.
So that's
what
why
I've been hearing
if
from
you
my
haven't gotten
sources.
an email blast from him yet, you will soon. So don't be too anxious. But he is going to run for sure.
So you think Gavin Newsom, not
Wait, a 24 card.
24 card.
2024.
Yeah. Because Biden hasn't, he said he's going to run,
I don't
but
think
he
he
hasn't,
can.
he hasn't formally announced yet. So
No, he's
and
out. His
he's-
mind is out. He can't
don't
form
think
a
he
sentence.
can.
He can't talk. Marianne Williamson.
if she asked for my endorsement, I would. She's so when Bernie started off in the polls in 2016, I think he had 7%, or 8%. Marianne Williamson, she had her first poll come out. She's at 10%.
Oh, she's at 10%.
And then Biden was at 70%. So, I mean, there's still 60% difference, but she's sort of working her way up. But I mean, I think when Gavin Newsom announces, he'll probably...
I like Robert
very
F.
strong
Kennedy.
Do you think he has a good chance, Gavin Newsom?
The moderate base loves him, so...
I like Robert F. Kennedy. What do you think about him?
He's a Kennedy.
You don't like Robert Kennedy? You don't like the Kennedy family?
He's good on some issues. He's
independent. I feel like he's a free he's an independent thinker.
That you do have to give him credit for.
Yeah, he really is. I really like him. I mean, I'm saying I really like Robert F. Kennedy. You know, I mean, I would consider voting for that.
Well, what do you
vote for him. For
what do you think
president,
about a Trump card?
Trump versus
Of course,
DeSantis?
he's against.
Yeah, what do you think about a Trump card?
What's the
you
lesser
think,
evil, Trump or DeSantis?
Do you think
know.
Trump is going to run? Do you think it's going to come
Yeah,
down to
what do you think?
Trump running and then
in terms of
so
the
is it going to be
Republican
Newsom versus Trump? Is that what
or-
we're looking at here?
So you
or
think
is it
you don't think Biden
DeSantis
has?
versus Newsom?
I think that could be a Newsom versus Trump thing. Huh.
So you don't
Because
think-
I don't think DeSantis is gaining the momentum that
Okay.
he needs.
I don't see that
Yeah.
much either. I mean, he had a lot of momentum last year, up until last year, I think.
DeSantis released a book biography in February, and it didn't sell that well.
Oh.
Oh, yeah.
And I
it's
think he
done
lost steam
then.
ever since Trump got indicted.
Yeah.
Right. I think the momentum shifted towards Trump. And,
Yeah.
Yeah. The Republicans that I know, I think they kind of they were on the fence, but now I think more on the Trump
Yeah.
situation. But
Yeah.
you think Biden is not going to run?
I don't think he's gonna run.
I don't think
Yeah.
he can.
Did you
I don't-
hear people around the Biden? You know some Biden people.
Well, no, I mean, I haven't. Now that makes me curious. Now I do actually want to call friends that work for Biden.
His,
Yeah,
his
why don't you ask
approval
around?
rates and
Can you
everything
ask
is just
around and
low
look at-
I'll
all
get back
across
to you
the
then after I
board.
call them.
Because one reason is because I read a lot of books about Joe Biden, and Joe Biden is a very passionate and very politically hungry person. He wanted to become the president of the United States since he was 30 years old.
Yeah,
he
yeah,
wanted
yeah,
to be
yeah.
he wanted to be that guy.
Yeah.
And in the 80s, he was actually the leading candidate for the
Yeah.
Democratic Party
Yeah, he
until the
was in the
plagiarism
80s,
issue
yeah.
came up.
Yeah.
So he was really angry when Barack Obama, who was a junior senator who only had 3-year experience in the United States Senate side, when he won the presidency, they didn't have a good rapport.
Mm-hmm.
The things that I've been reading and hearing, they did not have a good rapport because he had much more experience, right? So Biden kind of took it personally.
Oh.
Yeah. And I think he made, what I think is, the country is going more left. Do you agree? I think shifting more towards the left under a Biden presidency. You don't agree with that point? Definitely more than Trump, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So for me, I think for me, he's not a moderate anymore. For me, he's more left. He's very extremely left in my view. And I think that was a decision he purposely made so that he can one up Obama. That's how I see it. And I think I think there's a high possibility that he would still run because this is something that he wanted his entire life, and he might.
Would he be able to debate if he ran? I'm just curious. I'm really
I
curious.
think that he
Can
even
debate?
dodged the debate. Remember?
I mean,
he
how can you
only
dodge a
did
debate?
one debate
Yeah,
against
he
Trump.
did. But I mean, right now, at this point, 2024, looking at 24,
I don't think he can hold
could
it.
he debate? Could he even?
I mean, he would be destroyed by Trump if he does a debate, either Trump or DeSantis. I don't think anybody can hold a debate.
And that's interesting you point that, because as president you should have the advantage because you have all the intel and the experience, the current one, but to even project that means that he's really in a weak position to
and
run.
did you know about that? The Republicans are doing a boycott against debates. Did you know that presidential debate? You didn't know this.
Oh, I did
Right?
not know
Yeah,
that.
they're on a boycott because they thought all the questions were tilted towards the left. So they said they will not hold a debate. I think they didn't agree upon it. So people are saying there might not be any debates.
I see.
Which that favors Biden in a way, right? If they don't hold a debate.
Well, if they don't hold a debate, though, I mean, the reason why Republicans or some Republicans want to do that is because they find it advantageous to them. Because I find, based on what like even my parents circulate to me of like conspiracy stuff, it's like when you don't have that on mainstream media, where do you go then? You go to the side outlets like YouTube and stuff.
Wait,
And
but
so
the
I-
mainstream media doesn't. But the mainstream media does a poor job on reporting everything fairly.
No, I get that too.
You know,
Yeah, I get that too. But then I think in a way, if you have televised broadcasted debates, then I mean, it'll be the talk of the news. But if you don't, then I mean, those Republican circles where they're able to share their news and spread their news, like it doesn't really
You're saying that not holding a debate would be advantageous to the Republicans?
would empower their communication channels on the side, on the fringe, no?
I don't see that. I think it's a plus for whoever is not in the office.
To be honest,
to
I
do
don't
a
think
debate.
anything is advantageous for the Republicans.
I mean, I think he and
I think
he
I'm
and I
right.
are in agreement that I think
Yeah.
a Democrat presidential candidate would probably win. I think they took over the system. That's our
knock
view.
on wood.
And I think even the election system, I think election system is pretty much, after they changed everything to vote by mail, I think that's advantage Democrats. And it doesn't matter what California wants. California's going to vote whoever's Democrat, right? It's going to all end up being between Arkansas, who's going to win? Arizona, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan, Georgia. I think it depends on these 5 states. And I think among these 5 states, I think Democrats can win all of them. That's how I see it. I don't see a Republican
So,
pathway,
but then-
especially
so
like
you-
Pennsylvania, especially Philadelphia, Detroit. These cities are completely taken over by Democrats. So I see a hard pathway, to be honest with you.
And then, but
for the
House and
Republicans.
Senate though.
Pardon?
House and Senate also Republican. I mean, on the flip side, Republican.
The House, I think Republicans,
Yeah.
they already took control
Yeah. Yeah.
barely. And Senate side, Democrats has to defend like 26 seats, right?
Yeah.
So I think possibly, but even that, I feel Republicans, their marketing skills are so out. I mean, so lacking. They don't do ballot harvesting, even though it's legal. They don't do it well. So I feel like, it feels like they want the old school style, one vote, one mail. You go on the election day. Still, a lot of my Republican friends, they would vote only on on election day rather
Yeah.
than vote by mail. And I just don't understand it. The game changed, and they don't even follow through with how the
And
game
also,
changed.
when you look at like schools, I think any student, most students, I think they're gonna vote. The blue. I think that's how it is naturally instilled in them. I think through education and stuff.
But
And
Axios came out with a report today that 40% are independents, the young people. That kind of surprised me.
So that's why you have the
maybe
Forward
that's kind of
Party.
good.
That's why you have the Forward Party
Forward-
by Andrew Yang. Yeah, he created
Andrew
his own
Yang.
party.
Is that
People
gaining
don't even talk
traction?
about him.
It is gaining traction. Yeah.
Do you think so?
No, I mean, in terms of they're going hard in terms of making efforts. They're going hard in California right now.
Okay, so other
to
than
create-
Andrew
to
Yang,
enlarge
who's
the
there?
base.
Who's there? I think Andrew Yang is the only person I know. Who are the other members?
From-
It's just Andrew Yang.
I think so.
That's what I.
But from what I know, from what I heard, like in the past, he was trying to get other kind of big political names to join, but I don't think they did join.
But I find it a little bit strange sometimes, even now, because Korea has several minor parties as well.
Right.
When you look
Yeah.
at just two main parties, it's like
더불어민주당,
it's like I would
yeah,
expect
Yeah.
the father of democracy, the country of origin where democracy came from, would
Yeah.
have more than two parties.
Yeah.
But Korea is different in the sense that they always change their names. 한나라당,
that's true,
한국이나, they would always change names.
It's like, oh, we're getting a bad rep. Let's change our name.
Yeah.
Get a new color.
But in America, no matter what happened, it has always been Republicans and Democrats.
Maybe it's
Pretty
time
much.
for the Republicans to change their color into maybe
And actually,
like a little
Republican
more-
Party is the more
like-
newer party, right? I mean, even though their nickname is Grand Old Party,
Yeah.
Lincoln is the first
Yeah.
Republican president,
Yeah.
right? So
And it used to be that they were more socially liberal,
yeah,
before,
somehow,
but then
I
it
think.
changed along the way too. So
No, but isn't Democrat more pro-war now these days? I mean, look
Oh,
at
yeah.
what's happening with Biden, right? He
Yeah.
seems to be very hawkish.
yeah,
Yeah,
I think
and there was no new war under Trump. I mean, that's where I give Trump a lot of credit because I think he's a little bit more anti-war than the establishment Democrats. Do you agree with that?
I mean I think establishment Democrats are just as pro-war and pro-corporate as like I think that they can be to the utmost. So
You don't consider yourself establishment Democrat. You're more of a progressive Democrat.
oh
right?
yeah. That's why Congressman Jamie Raskin sent out a text message to all the constituents in our campaign last cycle, and he said, if David's elected to Congress, he'll be dangerous and it'd be a threat to democracy. That's what Congressman Jamie Raskin sent to all of the constituents in our district.
It's like a recurring
And I was
theme,
like,
a threat
what
to
the hell?
democracy.
Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, threat to democracy.
Yeah.
It's like a recurring theme these days.
It's because knowing that I won't fall in line with kind of what I'm told to do or
Yeah.
expected to do, they don't want people like that in
So
TC,
you still don't, you didn't accept any PAC money, right? for the last election cycle.
Yeah, no PAC money.
And no corporate money too.
No corporate
So
PAC
that I
money,
respect, you know. I think we need more politicians like that who is
Yeah.
not bought and paid for. But
Yeah.
it is an uphill battle, right? Money-wise. Because
It
you
is an
you
uphill
said that
battle.
if you had that much more money, you could have won. I think you said that
Yeah,
afterwards.
I mean, it is an uphill battle. Like when you compare the 250,000 that we raised last cycle in comparison to Jimmy's $2+ million. Like,
How many times?
I mean, at least 10 times. So, I mean, at least 10 times. So, imagine that though. But the fact that we still only lost by that small of votes, like that means a lot.
What did Andrea Ocasio-Cortez say about
You
your
down with
race?
AOC? Yeah, you know me.
I'm not. I would love to meet her though. I would
Did you
love
get
to
her
meet
endorsements?
No, I mean, we
It-
reached
it-
out to her.
I feel like she became more of an establishment figure. She proclaimed to be this progressive individual who would bring change, but I don't see any change. I feel like she's more like an entertainer now.
Has she sold out?
And I think I've been hearing that she might run for United States Senate, and she's so pro-war against Russia, you know, supporting. I mean, I think she's a pro-war elected official. What do you think? Do you think she changed, or she never changed? To me, she dramatically changed. She doesn't seem to be the person who I thought she was.
I think she changed in how she's projected and wanted people to perceive herself as when she first went in. So we don't know if she changed as a person. That could have been her this whole time. But in terms of the
True colors,
perception
it could be, right?
and they created, yeah, right. And so I think that became evident when she had an opportunity to mobilize and organize people to force the vote on Medicare for All, like back in the days, and other kind of issues where you kind of see, hey, like, isn't that a scenario where we elected you to like stand your ground and do it, but then you don't stand your ground? So it's like, oh, then why did we rally around you if you're not doing what we rallied around you for? And so I think in terms of that, like, there's definitely those change in expectations of what we all believe that she would be and do, but from what she's doing now. And then in terms of being pro-war, I mean, despite that though, I mean, what I think a lot of Democrats do well is they do a lot of virtue signaling where, oh, I'm going to vote no on increasing the budget. And it's like, what the but you like take money from all these other people and vote to pass all these other bills in other ways. And so
there's no opposite voice, I feel like. Aren't they in unison?
Yeah. And so I mean, I don't know. I mean, there could have
Would
been
you be an opposite
there could have
voice?
been an internal
Would you
switch
be an
off.
opposite voice?
I would. Oh, get this though. I remember Jimmy Gomez when he and I met in March 2021 after I had lost the 2020 campaign. We met in March with me, my then campaign manager, and his then district director, the four of us behind his office building on a table. I know I'm describing it because I remember it so distinctly, but he explained to me, like, I went with a list of organizations and activists that he should reach out to and co-govern with, and I was polite but still persistent, and hey, you could be fighting for so much more for us, why aren't you doing it? Basically in a few words, that's what I was talking to him about. And he replied back with, hey, David, look, in Congress, there's 4 types of people. There's what you call a statesman, and that statesman person is completely loyal to the party, does everything the party wants, obeys, and climbs up the ranks. There's an outsider that stands on the streets and yells, this is injustice, no, but nobody listens to them. And then there's other 2 people, like positions that I forgot. But my mind was so fixated on those 2 because I asked him, what are you? He said he's a statesman. And I said, what is AOC? And he said, she's an outsider on the street where nobody listens to her. And so when I see all of these photos that he's deliberately taking with AOC to virtue signal to our constituents that he's tight with AOC, it's like, does she know that you said that about her? But in any case, so, I mean, we always have to be suspicious of different people's intentions.
Well, you know what? I don't know what you are going to be, but I would like to see what you're going to be in the next run. So I'll just leave it at that.
If I run,
I think the
yes.
Korean community were behind
If you run, but I hope you run.
Yes.
And
All
I
right.
hope you don't change once you go into Congress.
David, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you so much for having me here.
Yeah, thank you.
Enjoy the talk.
Thank you.
All right, that was Culture Shock with David Kim. And next time you see him, if you see him on the voting roster again, then you know that you could vote for him if you'd like.
If I do.
Well, I hope so. All right.
But he didn't announce yet, right? You
Yeah,
didn't
he did not
yet.
announce it yet.
I'm
So we'll wait.
exploring.
Okay, exploring. Let him explore a little more. We'll see you back here tomorrow.
All right. Thank you very much.